Get all you know about podcasts. We welcome you to an experience uniquely different. Please join us for our coverage of all entertainment on the fringe of society. The candles are lit, the lights are down low. It is now time to welcome our host as he steps up to the pulpit. The sacrifice has been prepared for the midnight black mass.
Ghastly greetings, groovy ghoulies, and welcome to another edition of the Reverend's Midnight Black Mass on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. I am your host, maniacal minister of the occult, the devil you know, the Reverend Dan the Dragon Wilson, and tonight we have a very special guest on the program, but before we get to him, I want to introduce my co-host for the evening. He's the founder of the Beyond Ringside Radio Network, Mr. Fast Eddie Layne. How are you?
Wonderfully well, and I actually think I drank my body weight in Long Island iced teas this past Friday night.
Well, that sounds like a good Friday. I
was.
saw a headline in the paper that said, in the paper, like I'm 1,000 years old. It was on the internet, okay?
There you go.
I saw a headline that said that there was a woman in Chattanooga who was arrested for smashing out a police car window and was found pantsless in the street. And it sounds like you were hanging out with her.
I don't get that lucky. I can't get him out of the pants sober, high, awake, or asleep. Not that I'd ever really try roofing a girl to try to get her to sleep. That's Andrew's bit, so I'm going to leave that alone.
Yeah. Well, Andrew Alexander and Tank off again this week, but all the better since we can devote more time to our special guest tonight. It is my pleasure to introduce a guy who I met up at the IWA Deep South Carnage Cup and actually bonded with quite well. We spent quite a bit of time together there in the trenches is what was about an 8-hour show. But, little did I know, he was actually a guy I already knew of. I'd followed his horror blog, Son of Celluloid, and, possibly even seen a couple of the independent things that he's done. He's done some work in films such as Frankenstein Created Bikers. He's hosting a huge track at the Days of the Dead Horror Convention in Atlanta this weekend. We're going to talk a lot about that. It is my pleasure to welcome the Son of Celluloid himself, Nathan Hamilton. How's it going, brother?
Man, if I was doing any better, someone would be bleeding.
Well, the last time we met,
great to be here. How's it going, guys?
Oh, fantastic, man! Great to have you. I was going to say the last time we met, there was a lot of bleeding going on. Those Carnage Cup shows have just such a crazy reputation, and this one was no different. I really want to get into the horror side of things because that's something we do a lot here on the Midnight Black Mass. We like to talk a lot of horror. But before we do that, I just had to reflect on that moment because it was a great experience just getting to spend that time with you. We bonded on a lot of different things, music and movies and other things, and had a damn good time getting intoxicated calling 8 hours of deathmatch wrestling.
Yeah, that's what introduced you to Space Juice that day, which is my signature cocktail. And it's gotten me through many a show, many a convention, whatever. But yeah, calling 8 hours of calling about 4 hours of deathmatch and about 4 hours of people setting up barbed wire was quite the experience there. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. You were great. I love doing commentary with you.
I appreciate it, man. It was a blast. We had really good chemistry and just kept feeding off of each other, and it was a grand old time. I'd do it again anytime. Is there any other wrestling related stuff that you're involved in right now?
Right now, we're looking for a new venue in Atlanta right now. We used to do a thing until we lost our place called Monstrosity Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
which we did where everybody has horror movie, gimmicks and characters. And like, for example, on our first show, our main event was a zombie lumberjack battle royal, where everyone's in the ring is surrounded by zombies. When you get thrown over, you get bit. So the last person, in the ring, not only won, but got to be the only person that stayed human.
That's pretty.
So we have
fantastic.
all that kind of cool. We have all that kind of coolness going on. We're currently looking for another place to do that. I go up and do some stuff with Milestone up in Charlotte now and then, and I'll be calling IWA Deep South Super Stiff Ironman tournament coming up in April. So that's all the wrestling stuff I've pretty much got on my plate at the moment. They're still basking in the glory of Shinsuke Nakamura winning the frickin' Royal Rumble.
Yeah, that was a great moment, and I don't. If you're not excited for AJ versus Nakamura at WrestleMania, come on.
This may be the first time ever that before WrestleMania I would look into the roster and say, what is the best match I could possibly put together on this roster? And it actually happened.
Yeah, well, I was talking to AJ at the Wildside reunion, and he was telling me that that's something that he's been wanting for a couple of years, and that that it had been pitched to him a few times, and he didn't want to just give it to him. He wanted it to mean something. So I'm so happy that he got that moment.
Yeah, I find it really interesting because Nakamura winning the Men's Royal Rumble and Asuka winning the Women's Royal Rumble.
Thank
you. Do you think WWE might be taking notice of the momentum New Japan's gathering?
I mean, quite possibly. That's pretty insane that two Japanese talents won both Royal Rumbles. That really tells you something about where those folks stand on the roster. Both great choices.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I couldn't think of better winners. That's exactly who I would have picked if I was saying, okay, that's who I would go for. That, and they won. I'm so, like, the last time the person I wanted to win the Royal Rumble won the Royal Rumble was Ric Flair in 92. So I was stoked, man.
I don't know that one will ever be topped. That's my all-time favorite Rumble.
And Bobby Heenan at the 92 Rumble gave the greatest single commentary performance of all time.
Oh, yeah. Like the way he's panicking every time Flair's on the verge of elimination, and just like his range of emotions that he expresses. And Flair, I mean, it's one of the greatest in-ring performances of all time, and the roster was so fucking loaded then. You look at all the guys, when Flair basically was, taking on a guy at a time when he would get rid of a guy, and like all the different people coming in there, it's like Piper, Jake, DiBiase, fucking Duggan, like it's just this who's
like
who
of that Rumble are in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's I don't know that it'll ever be topped, but 2018 was a great time.
Absolutely, that was best Rumble in many, many years. I was very happy with it.
Hell yeah. Eddie, what did you think?
Rumble itself, well done. Men's, I thought that the women's was waxing way nostalgic, and the only thing that I had a problem with on the men's Rumble was the fact it was like the new school versus the old school, or yesterday versus today. John Cena should not have been in that Final Four. Randy Orton, of course, he's still full time. But just call me a hardliner in this particular regard. I just didn't think Cena should have been in the Final Four. I see why they did it. I just don't have to like it.
I think Cena, Randall, and Reigns being there at the end of that Rumble was analogous to that moment where you think that they just might actually let the final girl kill Jason Voorhees. And then before they finally give you what you want, they have to tease, oh, no, we're going to screw you. And I think that's why they were there, because no one wanted Cena or Reigns or Randall. No one wanted that. So they had to dangle it in front of us and make us think they were going that way, which, just made Shinsuke all that much sweeter.
Oh, yeah. And for those who actually took Shinsuke on Vegas, you actually came out okay because he was actually one of the odds-on favorites to win.
I wish I'd put money on it.
Yeah. According to about 5 of the major sports books, 2 here in the U.S. and 3 over in the U.K., he was like a minus 150 to minus 180 favorite to win.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. That's impressive. That's impressive. Whoever called that, because I would never have called WWE putting the best wrestler in the Rumble there at the end, because that never happens. So whoever put the odds on that was amazing foresight.
And there was a nice little prop bet as to whether or not Daniel Bryan would actually be a part of the Rumble. And this is the one that actually took me for a curveball, because originally, I'm trying to remember, I think it was a UK site that had him originally like a 68-1 long shot to even be a part of the Rumble. And then 3 days, I think just after we wrapped up the Midnight Black Mass last Monday, I was looking, and with a week left, he had been cut to like a 9-1 for his appearance possibility.
I believe that's what's known as odds makers fucking with your head.
Oh, yeah. I didn't touch that one.
Yeah, nope.
There was no way I was touching that one. Although I did come out pretty well with some of the old school women in the Women's Royal Rumble. I did make out okay on those. I just didn't think they'd put both Brie and Nikki back to back. I missed that one.
I was really, really hoping for the ghost of Mae Young, but it just didn't happen.
I had her pegged at number 27.
Oh, that would have been great.
I was
at the end. It should have been Asuka versus the ghosts of Mae Young and Moolah.
And the hand comes falling down and causes a distraction.
Perfect. Perfect.
And by the way, Rev, let me go ahead and throw this one to you. Nathan may remember this one because for a couple of years I actually had one of the nicknames I pinned on him was the Mad Scientist of the Ultraviolent.
Mad Scientist of Ultraviolence, yep. So there were 3 Nathan Sadistic Playground matches. And they progressively got sicker and sicker and sicker. And I don't know if I can top the last one without actually killing somebody.
Well, believe it or not, and you're going to laugh at this one, and Rev, you're probably going to roll your eyes and laugh at the same time. I still have the barbed wire toilet seat.
I have you have the first one. I have the second one hanging on my wall right now.
I've got the one that you gave me the following year. You said that you were going to bring it back and use it one more time, and then it was mine after that. Then from there, one of the steer's head that you have with the carpet tacks.
Oh yeah, from 9.
Yeah,
Carnage Cup 9.
I've still got that one too.
I think my favorite part of the Carnage Cup 9 DVD is when I inadvertently created my catchphrase, which is "When in doubt, punch him in the dick." and from like just off screen, you just hear Eddie just bust out laughing. I can't control himself. It's one of the best moments ever. But yeah, probably the weapon I am most proud of was from the Nathan Sadistic Playground match at Carnage Cup 10. It was a board of 666 syringes.
I'm glad I missed that one.
That's pretty good.
Although
this is how I know it might be the sickest weapon I've ever seen, because if you watch the DVD, across the ring, because it was used in the match between John Rare and Trudy Martinez, but across the ring you can see Spider Boudreaux standing there watching the match. And when it gets used, he cringes and looks away from the ring. And if you can get that reaction from Spider Boudreaux, you know you've done something sick.
And for the record, my ex did say that she would have sex with me again as long as we could recreate the barbed wire bed that you created, and I'm on bottom.
Do I need to build another one for you?
No! His El Nizal.
I can do it.
Rev, did you ever see that?
Eventually, if I decide to come out of retirement, I'm thinking exploding deathbed this time.
Cool.
Because I did the deathbed, then I did the deathbed with glass, then I did the deathbed with a dangling light tube platform. So the explosions is about the only place I can go from there.
Nathan Onita.
Oh yeah, that would be. I would need to find out who does his explosion, because I can't figure out how to do those explosions. I've got buddies that do pyrotechnics for movies and stuff, but it's very difficult to get it to where it will, detonate just at the moment of impact. Because there's always some kind of delay and everything. So I don't know who does Onita's explosions, but they are a demolitions genius.
Yeah, that's a complicated setup. I've never understood how they pulled that off without killing anybody. Because that's the whole desire is like that it needs to. It can be painful, but it doesn't need to, obviously like blow a limb off. So you have to control. It's controlled in violence to a degree.
If you do it in IWA,
as much as you can control it.
If you do it in IWA Deep South, Kevin Brennan will give you a $5 bonus.
Yeah. Yep. He actually slipped me a 20 for the deathbed.
I believe it.
Which, speaking of which, here's some trivia for you. There was one performer on this year's Royal Rumble show who has taken a bump into one of my weapons at Carnage Cup. Who was it?
In the Rumble match itself?
That was on the show. I'll say this. That was in. This might be giving it away, but that was in one of the Rumbles.
I'm trying to think who all he's booked. I
Yeah,
know he's booked a bunch of, like indie darlings at times, or guys who were hot. So, but who was it?
At Carnage Cup 7, the first person who took a bump into the original deathbed, which, for those who don't know, is a queen-size bed frame wrapped in an entire spool of barbed wire. So you can go through it. It caught you. At that time, she was known as Crazy Mary Dobson. She is currently known as Sarah Logan.
Thank you.
Oh, damn. Ha, ha.
With the only current WWE performer who has ever bled because of one of my creations.
Yeah, well, I say I don't think AJ ever bled in any match concepts that I came up with, but I did split Xavier Woods' back open with the Staff of Righteousness once.
Ow.
Beautiful. Nice watching. It's nice seeing people on TV that you made bleed. There's something about that warms your heart.
Deep down in the cockles.
Oh, yeah. The subcockle region.
Oh, so,
my
wrestlers...
heart's got a big cockle, too.
A big veiny cockle.
A big veiny cockle.
Oh, it's an artery. I'm sorry. The wrestling's all well and good, but that's like that's my job. So,
right.
Ditto.
You don't want to talk job anymore.
My true fandom, like kind of the thing that replaced wrestling over the years, and that's not because I don't love wrestling, so don't get it twisted, people out there. Like, I obviously love wrestling. It is my first love. But there comes a time when you know so much of what's going on behind the curtain because you create what's going on behind the curtain, that magic of fandom that you can just lose yourself in something is not really there for wrestling for me, but it has been for many years for horror movies and the horror genre as a whole. That would include literature and comic books as well. So, knowing your involvement in that community I thought was really cool from the beginning. I've always liked your blog. Let's take this back to the beginning. Like, where did the bug bite you for the horror fandom?
When I was young, I'm the son of a Southern Baptist evangelist, first of all. So, yeah, this is what happens to preacher's kids. But I remember when I was a kid, like, horror entertainment was not cool at our house. That was not okay, not allowed. And, we spent most of our life at church. And I just remember, like, the parts of the Bible that I gravitated towards was, like, the Book of Revelations and all the bloody stories. And, more than once my parents got called into a Sunday school class like, your son just drew David holding Goliath's severed head aloft and there's blood everywhere. You might want to have a talk with him. And so, I always had that interest in the macabre. But then when I was 12 years old, late at one night, it was in early October, I don't remember the exact date, but I caught Night of the Living Dead on TV. And I was like, holy shit, people actually make entertainment. That's everything I want. And it was over from there, man. From there on, it was all horror all the time. That's all I wanted.
That's so crazy because, and I'm sure, it's one of many coincidences or parallels we have in common. I'm sure plenty of people first had their taste of horror with Night of the Living Dead, but it was actually the same with me. I was at my grandparents' house, and it was on Lifetime or some shit, and they were like one of those high up in the number cable channels in the middle of the day on a Sunday. And they were out doing stuff in the yard, and so I was just kind of hunkered down there in the bedroom watching this movie, and it was black and white, and so didn't think anything of it, and it just captivated me, and from there I was hooked instantly, and like you probably, I had a lot of trouble because I was so young. I was 6 or 7, maybe 7, maybe 8. I can't remember the exact age, but I was young enough that it was frowned upon for me to go, hey, I want to rent that Friday the 13th movie at the video store. Right.
Luckily, about the time that I discovered that, wasn't too long after that Joe Bob Briggs started hosting Monster Vision on TNT. And that was how I discovered a lot of my early favorite horror movies. And he was that cool older brother or uncle or something that was like, hey kid, watch this. That was him on TV, and I've gotten to meet him since then. We've worked on a couple projects together, and he's the coolest. He's my hero. But I consider him my horror mentor, even though I never met him until a few years ago. But yeah, I started seeing it a lot on TV, and then I started, got to the age where I could get my own video rental card, and from there, shit, man, I watched and may have bootlegged everything in the horror, section of the video stores around, and from there I just seek out everything I can possibly find, whether it's Hollywood stuff, the most obscure independent stuff from countries I've never even heard of, whatever. Just give me all the horror.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I agree on Monster Vision. Was a huge fan of Joe Bob's Drive-In Theater on I think it was the Movie Channel or Cinemax.
Movie Channel. It was Movie Channel.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and that's where I first remembered Joe Bob, and then Monster Vision after that. And glad to see he's still out doing his thing. I saw that there's an effort to try to bring Monster Vision to Shudder, which is a fantastic service, well worth the $5. By the way, if you're not getting it. But yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I recorded my video testimonial.
I haven't done it yet. Is the deadline passed already?
I honestly don't know. I filmed it when I was filming some promo stuff for Days. You being a Joe Bob fan, you'll appreciate this. A movie came out a few years ago called Time to Kill. Not the one with Samuel L. Jackson and all them. It was a neo-exploitation flick done by Brian Williams and starring Ellie Church. And we showed that movie at Days of the Dead Indianapolis, and Joe Bob was going to be there. And so we wanted him to do the intro for the movie, but he was flying out early and couldn't do it. So, you remember how he used to do the drive-in totals?
Yes.
On the show? He entrusted me to write the drive-in totals and then sign them to make them official. So I actually got to ghostwrite drive-in totals for Joe Bob Briggs, and it was one of the greatest moments of my life.
Oh, that's such a mark-out moment, as we would say. In wrestling, I don't get to do that because I've gotten to work with all of my heroes. But you can't just go over there and be like, "Oh, hey!" You can now apparently, but
right.
In my day, it was frowned upon. I worked shows with Eddie Guerrero and people that are not here anymore. And just never did that. Never got the pictures, but. As a horror fan, I don't work in that genre, so I could be the biggest mark on the planet.
Right. And it's funny, having worked with a horror con for like years, I don't get starstruck by them anymore. You know, except in rare occasions. Like, certain people still, blow my mind. But it's probably the same way you are with wrestling. The horror people. Like, I remember one time, the last time it happened was I had interviewed about 15 people that day, like the entire cast of Nightbreed, most of the cast of Night of the Demons, everyone. And I'm interviewing Doug Bradley, Pinhead, and I'm not even paying attention. And I just, I'm tired. I'm hungover as hell because it's a Sunday at a convention. I was like, okay, you ready? And I put the mic over, and he just in straight, perfect Pinhead voice goes, I am ready. And it just sent chills up me. I was like, oh, now I remember who I'm interviewing. Holy shit,
That's fantastic. I never had Doug Bradley on the show, but we did have a gentleman named Kevin Helms who worked on Hellraiser 3 on the show a couple of years back, who was Doug's stunt guy or stand-in, and he's actually one of the only other people to don the Pinhead makeup for one of the scenes where he was like, there were like 3 Pinheads or some shit.
Right.
So,
and rare honor.
Yeah, that was cool. He was a really cool guy. But he had kind words to say about Doug as well. So I bet that was an awesome experience. And I bet you got to, you said you're no longer starstruck, but what are some of the coolest experiences you've had interviewing people from the genre?
Oh, man. My first interview I ever did on screen, on video, was Sid Haig. And I was terrified. Like, oh my God, I'm such a huge fan that was, my very first one. And that was Days of the Dead, I think, 7 years ago. And Gary Busey had pulled the fire alarm at 2 a.m. the night before. He also pulled a knife on me in an elevator. I'll get to that story eventually if you want me to. But, the time had changed, and Sid Haig walks down, and he is pissed. I'm getting goddamn sleep every goddamn breakfast yet. And I'm, Mr. Haig, we were supposed to have an interview this morning. I was like, oh, God damn it, that's right. All right, come over here. And so we sit down. Second the camera comes on, he is the consummate professional. Just like he is laughing and joking, telling jokes, talking about working with Lon Chaney Jr. and telling stories about shooting stuff with Pam Grier in the Philippines in the 70s and just entertaining as hell. So we do this amazing interview, and then the second we call cut, he's like, I go fucking 8 now. I'm like, gets up and goes. I was like, that is a pro right there. Like, that guy is amazing. Like, he was, interviewing him, that was probably one of the coolest, experiences. I have, let's see. I watched one of my haunt friends chase Danny Trejo down a hall. I've also worked in haunted houses since I was 12. And one of my buddies is a giant man who runs around in some shitty tighty whities and a gas mask. And for some reason, everyone thinks that is the most terror. I watched him chase Jason Mewes around the smoking section. Ken Foray wanted nothing. It was great. He scared the crap out of everybody. But yeah, that's one of the great things about these conventions. We'll talk about Days of the Dead in a minute, I'm sure, and which you'll be attending with me this weekend. It's a lot of these shows. You go in, you pay your $20, you get your autograph, you leave. But this particular convention, the reason it's the one I love working with the most, is it's a party. Everyone, you're there with a whole bunch of like-minded weirdos, and the celebrities are just. Yeah, you're going to go get your autograph, but they're just hanging out and talking to you, and they're real personable, and it's just the whole vibe is different. It's more like they're hanging out with you than they're there to sell you something.
And that's one thing that I've noticed from the horror community at large. I love you wrestling fans, but just go on Twitter. You guys get a little uptight sometimes. Horror fans are by far the coolest fan community to hang out with. I've never been to a horror convention and felt like I was unwelcome or unwanted, and it's always amongst strangers, but it's like instantly a family because you're all the fucking weirdos that bond over the weird shit that nobody else likes. So I guess that's what makes it what it is, huh?
Yeah, it's like I said, you go to an event like this, and you walk in, and yeah, like you said, you're in a room full of strangers, but you already know you have common ground and a shared passion with everybody there. So, it's like a family. And it's cool because, you'll see people at these cons that I do 5 these cons a year. I see them 5 times a year. And so it's like a family reunion, You walk in, it's funny, you'll walk down the hall, and here comes Kane Hodder walking towards you. Hey, what's up, Kane? What's up, man? Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's all you get. Yeah, and once you get into the whole horror convention scene and you realize just how close knit it is, then it almost becomes not so much of a going to meet the celebrities as it's I want to go see Sid again or see Bill again. These people. It's cool because before you meet them, they don't exist in your world. You've seen them on screen. Like, you meet Doug Bradley, like we said, he's Pinhead. Once you meet him, he's Doug. He exists on the same plane of reality you do. He's a real person, and you shook his hand. So, your world gets a little bit smaller in a very, very good way.
Yeah, and I feel like a great kinship with a lot of these guys because they're, when you talk to them about their experiences, especially guys like Bill Moseley and Sid Haig, and a lot of the guys who are on the horror con circuit, these aren't multimillionaire actors, they're independent artists just like we are, grinding it out there, just trying to make a buck, and they deal with the same bullshit we deal with. I've waxed poetic about wrestling with a lot of different people. I sat there and talked to Angus Scrim at a convention a few years ago, and just, about the parallels. And you're right. When you go up to them and you talk to them, it's not like I love Dragon Con, but you go up to a lot of these celebrities at Dragon Con, and you can tell they would rather be doing anything but standing there talking to you. They're looking at their phone, they're talking to their agent, they're like, oh, sign this, whatever. You will not get this at a horror convention. At a horror convention in Chattanooga one time, it was a bad turnout, like I guess it was poorly advertised, so there weren't a lot of people there, but it was great for us because we got to spend like 2 hours just sitting there hanging out with PJ Soul. Like that's the kind of shit that happens at horror. Yeah, she's so great.
Sweetheart. Yeah, I love PJ. PJ is awesome. And like you said, you just hang out with him, and all of a sudden you're like, the next time you watch Halloween, you're like, oh my God, I know people in this movie now that I grew up watching. And it gives you a personal connection to, art that you've loved forever, and it gives you a whole different appreciation for it.
Yeah, without a doubt. So tell a little more about Days of the Dead. I know that's what we've been kind of chatting about in general as far as horror cons, and how Days of the Dead's kind of even more special than your standard horror cons. But your involvement, that fascinates me as well, because I feel like in another life, had wrestling not existed, I probably would have ended up in that field at some level. So it all just fascinates me. But I know you run a lot of tracks at Days of the Dead, but just kind of tell us the story of your involvement.
Okay, back in 7 years. Was it 7 years? Yeah, 7 years ago, Days of the Dead came to Atlanta. It started in Chicago, and then the second show was in Atlanta. And I showed up. This was shortly after I'd started the Son of Celluloid blog. And, I was getting ready to do the YouTube show, and they were the first convention that treated me like a legit press outlet. And said, here's credentials, come in, interview our people. And so, from then on, I was ride or die with Days, because they were the first ones that just welcomed me in. From there, I started to do interviews at these, and I would interview all the people from my YouTube channel, and then slowly they knew that independent horror is my passion. Everyone loves the classics. Everyone loves the big Hollywood stuff. But independent horror, the stuff that people are making, that aren't making a fortune off of it, they're doing it for the love of it. They're doing it because, they have a story that they need to tell. That's my passion. So when they started to incorporate, independent horror, they had me host the panels. They had me, do some of that stuff. In addition, I hosted the Joe Bob Briggs panel. I hosted the panel for Phil Anselmo at one of them. I did, a few of the celebrity ones. And I hosted Ric Flair's one in Indianapolis. The one wrestling thing in there. But I was doing doing all the independent stuff. And then my girlfriend, who I'm now dating, we had just started dating, and she works at Dragon Con, which you mentioned earlier. And Days of the Dead had always had one programming track. It was just the celebrity Q&As. So she told, she works there, and she's like, hey, my boyfriend does those panels and stuff. So they got me to come do some at Dragon Con. And I was doing fan panels, not the celebrity stuff. And I'm sitting there looking around. I'm like, you know what? There are no celebrities in this room. It's just a bunch of fans, but we have the coolest things going on in here, and the atmosphere in here is amazing. I got to take this to Days of the Dead. I got to get this going there. So I went to the Powers to Be at Days, and I'm like, hey, guys, tell you what. Give me a room, give me a PA, and get out of my way. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, let me do an independent track. Like, you guys keep the celebrity interviews on your on the black track. We didn't have names then, but they became the black track and the blue track. I'm the blue track, and I celebrate everything else. Like, we've got everything coming from, like, I celebrate the literature. I've had comics people on there. We have makeup panels. We have independent horror directors. We have a horror burlesque show coming up on this one. We've got, bands. We've got, everything else. Every single aspect of horror that people are out there making on their own, that's who I want to put the spotlight on. Every city we go to, I make sure to involve as much local talent as possible, because those are the people that I want to highlight and the people I want to get out there. And if someone buys their movie that had never heard of it, that finds out about it through the blue track, my job is done. That's exactly why I do it.
That's great. The independent stuff is as good as anything.
Oh, it's better. It's better because, okay, think about how, all the horror movies that came out in theaters last year. Maybe 5 good ones, tops.
Yeah, most of my favorite movies were non-theatrical movies. I think like Mayhem was probably my favorite movie of 2017. Mm-hmm. Not theatrical.
It was great. Did you see? What was it called? The Devil's Candy.
I have it on my Netflix queue. It's the next movie I'm watching, actually.
God, it's so good. That one's up there. The Void is up there. There's one called The Evil Within that's up there. I mean, like...
The Evil Within.
Did you see that one?
Yeah. Oh, my God. That movie was fucking insane.
Right? That was nuts. Do you know the backstory behind it?
Yes. Like the heir to the, Yeah, the heir to, the oil thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and he spent his entire fortune just sitting there in a mansion smoking meth and making a movie. And it turns, you can tell, it was made by someone on the edge of insanity. But,
it's one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly. Movies like that. And then I could go on for more. Those people who have made movies like, that had, a few $1,000s and can get a camera. One of the best things that's happened to filmmaking it's really happened in the last decade, is that professional quality equipment has become affordable to normal people. Like, it's not now something that Hollywood does. It's something that if you can manage to raise $2 or $3 grand, you can do that. And it's so cool because those are the kind of artists that I love trying to encourage and being like, hey, tell you what, come here and you get on this panel with the guy that made Laid to Rest and this guy who made Harvest Lake. And, rub shoulders with them. Get your name out there. Do your thing. That's what I love doing at these. And, just throwing a horror party for a weekend. I mean, here, check out all of this stuff I have. I have such sights to show you,
Well,
I get a little excited when I talk about this stuff.
Oh no, you're in the right place. You're at home here at the Midnight Black Mass. Haven't had as many horror guests as I'd like. We had Phil Anselmo on a couple years ago, and he's not horror per se, but he did the House of Shock, and is closely associated with the genre.
Horror.
Oh,
that
he sure does.
Knows his horror. Like when I did the panel for him at Days of the Dead, he was like busting out some crazy obscure movies. Like he busted out a couple I'd never heard of. He's all the other guys wanting to talk Pantera with him, so I'm like, no. What was it like meeting Coffin Joe? That kind of stuff. That kind of stuff I want to talk about.
Yeah, he was just getting the Housecore Horror Fest together for the first time when I had interviewed him, and he was talking about when to get Goblin and things like that, and that was really cool. He was like my spirit animal, like my all time, like Pantera is like my number one fucking band, and so it was huge, and he couldn't have been like, fuck the rumors about Phil Anselmo. Yeah, he might say and do some stupid shit from time to time. We're fucking all human. We all do that. I spent 2 to 3 hours with the dude, just me and him in his dressing room. He was one of the most warm, genuine, friendly dudes I'd ever met, and genuinely appreciative of my fandom and genuinely interested in my wrestling stuff. Like, he was just one of the greatest.
Yeah, I remember I ended up talking to him at, sitting backstage before we did our panel, and we kind of bonded over haunted house stuff. Because I asked him, did you just own House of Shock, or would you, put on a mask and get in there and be scaring people? And, like I said, I've done that forever. So me and him started trading haunt stories. And he was getting off on mine just like I was getting off on his. I'm like, it's cool because we found the common, you have common ground with these people. And it's horror, man. Horror brings everybody together.
Yeah, it really does. I didn't mean to get off a tangent there. I'm super excited to be there in person for the first time this weekend. Some of the things I'm looking forward to. I met Kane Hodder once when I was a small kid. I mean, it's small. I was probably a preteen, but it was at a local haunted house in Chattanooga. That was great. But since then, I've learned so much about horror in my years as a diehard fan as an adult, and learned about his whole history in Friday the 13th, and Part 7 is actually one of my favorite ones, and I'm just a fucking enormous fan of the Hatchet series. I think that's probably some of the best shit going today. Super excited for Victor Crowley. I've got my Blu-ray pre-ordered. We'll be here on release day. So I'm super stoked to meet him again. Obviously, from my wrestling career, people know Bill Moseley and Sid Haig are big influences on me. So, and I've met Bill before, and he's a great dude. Look forward to seeing him again. But really looking forward to meeting Sid for the first time also.
Yeah, it was like I was telling you earlier. If you meet Sid, not first thing in the morning after Gary Busey fucked everyone's night up. But if you meet Sid Haig when he was normal Sid Haig, that he's basically Captain Spaulding, just a little bit more chill. Like Captain Spaulding's sense of humor, that's what talking to Sid Haig's like. Which is so awesome.
Yeah, I can imagine. One of my buddies, NWO Outside legend White Trash, who is now a radio DJ in the Nashville area for the Nashville Predators organization. But he once, as a pizza delivery boy, got to go hang out with Sid and Bill and Ken Foree and a bunch of guys at a horror convention, because he just went up and got their autograph, and he was like, "Hey man, I deliver pizzas. What room are you in?" And he hooked him up with some pizzas and other assorted things for their enjoyment, and he got to sit around and listen to them tell business stories, and that was a good time.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, but one of the cool things about Dave is it's not just the celebrities. We've also got a screening room, which is playing horror movies 24 hours a day. It is mainly independent horror movies. On Saturday night, we show some classics, which we have, I forget what we're showing this time around. But also on Saturday night, which you staying through the night Saturday?
Probably not all night, but we're planning to do the Dragon Con thing, because I didn't bother getting a room because we're going to be there all day. But we're going to be...
At 10 p.m., at least in the top 3 horror punk bands in America right now, the Casket Creatures. They're my boys. I don't just say that because I love them. They'd be one of my favorite bands if they were assholes. But they're playing at 10 p.m. on Saturday. You have to check them out.
Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna
I'll
love
be
them.
there at that time for sure. So
oh yeah,
that's
there's
still early.
music going on. There's movies going on. Hey, a lot of people get out because you don't want to be in downtown Atlanta when the traffic's going on. You want to beat traffic because that's the scariest thing about Atlanta. But if you're sticking around after that, yeah, definitely check out the Casket Creatures, and we're gonna have a party, man. It's gonna be awesome. And definitely come check out the Blue Track. Everyone within the sound of my voice, go to daysthedead.net and get your tickets to Days of the Dead. And when you're there, come check out the Blue Track because, like I said, I've got all kinds of cool stuff going on.
Yeah, I've looked at the stuff. You've got a big premiere and the Blue Track as well. She Was So Pretty Too. Tell us a little about that.
Absolutely. She Was So Pretty was a movie that was made 3 years ago by a woman by the name of Brooklyn Ewing. And it was a really interesting take on the whole slasher movie thing. It was, kind of a new spin on it that I'd never seen before. And it had a kind of a new spirit to it. And so she has gone and made a sequel, which is actually a Christmas movie, which is, it's horrifically festive and festively horrific. And Brooklyn she's an awesome talent. Like, she is going to be one to watch in the years coming up. She's, a great filmmaker, and this is the first time anyone has gotten to see this movie in the Southeast. And we showed it at Days of the Dead Chicago, and it played 2 film festivals, I think one in Indiana and one in Ohio or something like that. But that's the first time that this will be the first time anyone anywhere close to here has gotten to see this movie. And that'll be at 8 p.m. on Saturday in the Blue Track Room.
Awesome.
Actually, if you don't mind,
Hey,
you mind
I
if I
think
just run down the schedule right quick and let everyone know what I got going on?
Oh, absolutely. Please do.
All right, sweet. All right. Starting Friday, February 2nd, which is my birthday party, at 8 p.m. we have a show I call Sin and Salvation. Graveyard Gospel is how do I describe it? I call it a Southern Gothic tent revival. Amazing band. They're going to be playing a set, and interspersed throughout their set, we'll be Bumping the Night Ghoulesk doing a horror-themed burlesque show. So we've got the gospel, and we've got Tits and Ass. So it's going to be awesome at 8 o'clock. Then at 10, we've got the Dirty Dirty Con Game Show. It's actually a game show that I imported from Dragon Con. A bunch of my friends do it over there. And we're going to be doing a horror-themed version. And that one does get very blue, and you will have to be 18 years old with a valid ID to get into that one. Then at 12 o'clock on Saturday, which is at noon, are you familiar with Captain and Maybell?
Yes.
Yeah, they seem like people you would associate with. They're good friends of mine, Captain. They are, for those not familiar, they are world record-holding sideshow performers. And they're going to be doing a panel all about the history of clowns all throughout horror, from the silent movies with Lon Chaney Sr. all the way up to Pennywise and beyond. They're going to talk about everything clowns. Then at 1 p.m. we have Horror Makeup with Roy Woolley. If you're a fan of Face Off on the Sci-Fi Channel, you might know Roy. He's the guy with the cowboy hat. The fan favorite everyone likes. He's also a guy that has done terrible, terrible things to my face for about a decade and a half at Netherworld. He's an amazing effects artist. He's going to be telling you all the tricks. And then at 2 p.m., we have the Women of Independent Horror panel. We got 4 amazing directors there, including Brooklyn. Then at 3 o'clock, we also have another independent horror filmmakers panel. I had so many I had to split into 2. 4 o'clock, Needless Things presents Toy Stories, Plastic Horrors. That's all about the history of horror toys and collecting those. Then at 5 p.m., we've got what's going to be a very, very interesting event. This is kind of my pet project that I really want to get off the ground. It's the Terror Trade Swap Meet. I'm pretty sure all of us have some movies we don't want. Basically, you may have somehow gotten 2 of them, or maybe you bought the Blu-ray and don't need the DVD anymore, or you just didn't like the flick, or you've got some memorabilia, a poster, whatever. I want everyone to bring it to the Blue Track Room at 5 p.m., and we're going to have a good old-fashioned swap meet. And we're all going to trade our horror stuff. Only rule, no money changes hands, only trades. So that one's going to be fun. Then at 8 p.m. that night is the She Was So Pretty 2 premiere. Then Sunday at 1, we have the Franken-Thug panel. Franken-Thug is a horror comedy that's making its debut at Day of the Dead. It's the first time you can get the DVD. It's actually a spin-off of Frankenstein Creative Bikers. And I'm in this one. I play the leader of Satan's Own again. We go into a town, take over the drug trade, end up cutting down with the local dealers, who ends up being resurrected through hood science, a.k.a. weed that'll raise the dead, and he ends up going to war with my biker gang. So come and see the panel for my, not my film debut, but my first starring role. And then at 2 o'clock, we got the Atlanta Horror Authors Showcase. We got some of the best authors Atlanta has. They're going to read you some of their terrifying stories in their own words. So, as you can hear, we have quite a weekend ahead of us. And that's not even counting the Black Track, the screening room, the vendor's room where you can find everything your sick little heart desires, all the celebrities, and just the partying with a whole bunch of like-minded weirdos.
Well, I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to it. What are the ticket prices looking like for folks that might be interested?
Tickets right now, oh, God, I'm not even sure. I know the weekend passes, I believe, right now they're still advanced. The door price will be a little more. I think it's $50 for a weekend pass.
75.
75? Okay, then the pre-order price is already passed. So you should have gotten your tickets early. But if it's $75 for an entire weekend, like if you go to, you spend that taking 3 people to movies. And you can watch movies 24/7 if you want to.
Nathan.
You can, everything except, the autographs are extra. And a lot of the celebrities do charge extra for pictures. But other than that, everything is included in the price. Both tracks, all the movies, everything.
Do me a favor.
Yes.
I've got it in front of me, and I did make a missed call because the the pre-door ends on February 1st. The pre-sale discount, $60 for the weekend pass plus a $2.49 fee, or $2.49 fee, not $249. Sorry about that, kids. The weekend group bundle, which is on sale through February 1st, $200 4-ticket discount pack plus a $5.99 fee. Friday general admission pre-sale $25. Friday group bundle $80 for 4 tickets, and they've got more stuff going from there.
Thank you so much. I probably should have had that information on top of my head, but I just got excited about the event. I'll let you take care of the details. I'm too busy voting cats over here.
I try to help out where I can.
Yeah, nothing wrong being excited. But dude, we're starting to run out of time here. But what a great episode! I don't even feel like we hit the tip of the iceberg of the discussions we can have here. So I definitely want you to come back on the show if you're ever interested in doing so again.
Oh, absolutely. Tell you what, next time we'll do it when we don't have an event immediately coming up that we have to talk about, so we can just go into horror in general and go as deep into it as we want, man.
Oh, you're making my gears turn here now. You're giving me ideas. That's dangerous.
Yeah, when guys like us start thinking, the most wonderful, awful things happen.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well, where can they find you on social media before we get out of here?
On Facebook, go to Son of Celluloid. That's the page where you can find everything I'm doing. Also, go to the Blue Track page. That's where you find everything. And also, I want to mention one other thing. I have a new podcast that drops its first episode today. It's called Caught Dead Watching. And me and one of my good friends, Nicole Gould, we both share a love for schlocky, trash, so bad they're good horror movies. Yeah. And we talk about them. On our first episode, we cover a movie called Barn of the Blood Llama, which you got to hear about this insane flick. So Caught Dead Watching, you can go and download it on Podbean, or we're also available on Google Play and iTunes and Stitcher and everywhere else you use for your podcast pleasures. So check out Son of Celluloid and check out Caught Dead Watching.
Awesome. Well, big thanks to Son of Celluloid, Nathan Hamilton, joining us. I'll see all you folks this weekend at Days of the Dead. It's going to be insane in Atlanta, Georgia. You don't want to miss it. You can follow me on social media, of course, at Dragons Rejects, on Twitter, on Facebook.com/Rev Dan the Dragon Wilson. Also follow Anarchy Wrestling on Powerbomb TV. Twice a month on Powerbomb TV, $9.99 subscription. Use promo code ANARCHY for 20 days free. And our next event, February 24th, it will be Logan Creed versus Gunnar Miller for the Anarchy Triple Crown Championship. Thank you for joining us. Keep one foot in the gutter and one fist in the gold. And if somebody crosses you, put a foot in that ass. Good night.